It was a normal afternoon at the busy corner diner, but for Mariana Souza, that day seemed harder than usual. The clock read 2:23 p.m., and the waitress, with her apron slightly wrinkled and her hair tied in a hasty bun, ran from one side to the other, trying to fill orders while dealing with the constant complaints from the manager Claudio. The pressure was unbearable. Claudio was a strict man, always looking for reasons to criticize her. In the last few months, he had made it clear that Mariana was hanging by a thread, and any slip-up would be enough to cost her her job. Despite this, Mariana kept going, focused on what really mattered, supporting her son, João Pedro, who was only 7 years old. He was her strength, her reason to face the daily adversities, even though the bills piled up on the table of the small apartment seemed insurmountable. While serving a customer, Mariana noticed an elderly man enter the diner. He was wearing a faded coat for the harsh winter and carrying a small plastic bag as if it were his only belonging. His steps were slow, and his tired gaze wandered around the room, searching for something, food perhaps, or comfort. He hesitated near the counter, not daring to order anything. Mariana realized immediately, this man could not afford to pay. Her heart sank. She knew what it was like to feel the weight of the world on one's shoulders, even if for different reasons. And there was a moral dilemma: ignore him and keep her job, or help him and risk losing everything. Claudio, on the other side of the room, watched everything with his cold expression, as if he were waiting for any mistake. "I need to help," Mariana thought. Discreetly, she approached the old man and asked quietly, "Would you like something to eat?" The man looked at her with teary eyes, surprised by her unexpected kindness. "Yes, but I don't have any money," he replied with a shy smile. Mariana knew what that meant. She also knew what was at stake. Still, she took a step forward. "Wait here a moment, please." She went to the kitchen, asked the cook to prepare a simple dish, and returned to the dining room. Her every move seemed to weigh a ton under Claudio's watchful eye. When the dish was ready, Mariana took it to the old man, held the fork with trembling hands, and looked at her as if he wanted to thank her more than words could allow. "I don't know how to thank you," he said, moved. "Just eat, that's enough," Mariana replied with a brief smile. She felt a small relief, but she knew that this decision would have consequences. When she turned around, she heard Claudio's sharp voice. "Mariana, in my office. Now." The dining room went silent. The customers stopped eating, attentive to the scene. Mariana felt her heart race, but she tried to remain calm. Before following the manager, she turned to the old man. "I'll be right back." In the manager's small office, Claudio wasted no time. "What do you think you're doing? You know we can't go around giving away free food." "He was hungry, Claudio. You saw how he came in here," Mariana replied, her voice trembling. "That's not our problem. We have no room for charity. You're fired." The words hit like a punch. Mariana needed that job more than anything. The bills, her son's health care, everything depended on him. "Claudio, please," she tried to beg, but he didn't give in. "No, please, get your things and go." Back in the living room, Mariana took a deep breath to hold back her tears. She folded her apron carefully, looked at the old man, who was still eating without knowing what had happened, and decided that, even though she was defeated, she wouldn't regret it. Before leaving, she took a piece of paper from her pocket and wrote something quick. She handed the note to the old man, along with a smile. "This is for you. Good luck." Without waiting for an answer, she left the diner and walked towards the unknown, without a job, but with something that the manager Claudio could never take away from her: her humanity. The note contained simple but profound words: "Be strong. We all face battles, but we are not alone. Never lose hope." As Mariana walked home that late afternoon, the cold seemed even more intense. She held her purse tightly, trying not to let the tears fall. Her mind was buzzing with unanswered questions. How will I pay the bills? What about João Pedro's treatment? What will we do now? Arriving at the small apartment, she was greeted by João Pedro's warm smile. He was sitting on the couch with a thin blanket over his legs and a sketchbook balanced on his lap. "Mom, look what I made," he said, holding the sketchbook out to her. It was a drawing of a superhero with a red cape and a confident smile. Mariana forced a smile, even though her heart was heavy. "It's beautiful, my love. You are an incredible artist." She put her bag on the table and went to the cupboard. There was little food, and the end of the month was far away. While she was trying to decide how to prepare something for dinner, João Pedro approached her. "Are you okay, Mom?" "I am, dear. Just a little tired." But she knew that João Pedro noticed more than he let on. He had always been smart for his age. After putting a pot of water to boil, Mariana sat down at the table and stared at the pile of envelopes with overdue bills. The bill from the clinic where João Pedro was being treated was highlighted with a red number that seemed to scream at her. Feeling the weight of it all, she rested her head in her hands, trying not to give in to despair. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, the elderly man Mariana had helped, Mr. Antonio, was sitting on a park bench with the note still folded in his coat pocket. He took it out, read the words again, and felt something inside him change. Be strong. We all face battles, but we are not alone. Never lose hope. The simple and direct message touched a nerve in Antonio. He had lost almost everything: his home, his family, his dignity, but those words sparked a spark of courage. He knew he had to do something about it. That night, he gathered all his strength and sought out an old friend, a security guard named Roberto. He had worked as a doorman in a luxury building years ago, but he had never lost touch with Roberto, who now worked for Marcelo Albuquerque, a successful businessman known for his philanthropic initiatives. "I need a favor, Roberto. I want Marcelo to see this." He handed the crumpled note to his friend, briefly explaining Mariana's story. Roberto, touched by Antonio's sincerity, promised to take the note to Marcelo. "I'll show it to him. This kind of thing is important." The next day, while Mariana continued her desperate search for a new job, the note reached Marcelo. He was in his office, reviewing contracts, when Roberto came in and placed the paper on his desk. "This is for you, boss. I think you should read it." Marcelo took the note, read it, and remained silent for a few seconds. The simple words carried an unexpected depth. He looked at Roberto, curious. "Who wrote this?" "A waitress, boss. She helped a friend of mine, Mr. Antonio. She was fired for it." Marcelo held the note again, feeling something he couldn't explain. "Find this waitress for me. I want to know more about her." Meanwhile, back in the small apartment, Mariana was still struggling to find strength. Clara, her best friend and neighbor, appeared with a pot of hot soup. "I thought you might need this," Clara said with a gentle smile. "Comfort would be winning the lottery." Mariana replied with a tired smile. "You've been through so much, Mary. You'll get through this one. You always do." Clara tried to cheer her up, but Mariana felt like she was drowning. "I don't know, Clara. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this." Clara held her hand firmly. "You're not alone. People like you, who put their hearts above all else, always find a way." At that moment, Mariana didn't know that, in another part of the city, Marcelo Albuquerque was beginning a search that would change his life forever. On the other side of the city, Marcelo Albuquerque was sitting in his spacious office with a view of the skyscrapers. On his desk, the small note left by Mariana rested among contracts and reports. He read it again, as if trying to figure out what was behind those simple but powerful words. "Be strong. We all face battles, but we are not alone. Never lose hope." Marcelo was a man accustomed to grandiose actions, million-dollar donations, large-scale social projects, but something about that gesture intrigued him. Generosity in the midst of one's own vulnerability was something rare to see. He needed to meet the woman behind that message. "Roberto, did you get any information?" Marcelo asked the security guard, who entered the room with a determined air. "Yes, boss. Her name is Mariana Souza. She has been unemployed since she was fired from the diner for helping Mr. Antonio. She lives with her young son in a simple apartment, but she seems to be struggling." Marcelo nodded thoughtfully. "I want to meet her, find a way to bring her here." Meanwhile, Mariana, exhausted and without hope, returned home after another fruitless day of job hunting. Each no she received seemed to weigh more than the last. When she arrived at the building, she found Mr. Antonio waiting for her at the door. He seemed nervous but determined. "Mr. Antonio, is everything okay?" she asked, surprised. "I need to talk to you, girl," he said, holding the note she had written days before. "Please don't worry." With that, it was just a small gesture. Mariana began, but he interrupted her. "It wasn't small. It meant more than you can imagine. I want to introduce you to someone who can help." Mariana hesitated. She was used to fending for herself and was suspicious of promises, but something in Antonio's tone made her change her mind. "Okay, who is this person?" A few days later, Mariana met Marcelo in a modest cafe. She was visibly uncomfortable, wearing her only formal blouse and a worn-out coat. Marcelo, in contrast, wore an impeccable suit, but there was something in his gaze that conveyed sincerity. "You must be Mariana," he said, extending his hand with a welcoming smile. "Yes, Mr. Marcelo, it's a pleasure to meet you," she replied, still nervous. Marcelo invited her to sit down and got straight to the point. I heard about what happened at the cafe, about how you helped Antonio and ended up paying a high price for it. Mariana lowered her eyes, embarrassed. I didn't do it because I wanted something in return, sir. He was hungry. It was the right thing to do. Marcelo smiled. And that's exactly why we're here. People like you are rare. People who choose to do what's right, even when it means losing something important. He then began to explain the work of his foundation, which helped families in vulnerable situations. We're looking for someone to lead a new community project. It's a challenging job, but I believe you have what we need: empathy, courage, and determination. Mariana was silent for a moment. It was an unexpected offer, too good to be true. I don't know if I'm the right person for this. I've never worked on anything like this before. Experience is acquired, Marcelo replied. What you have can't be taught. Mariana took a deep breath, looking at her hands. What did she have to lose? Okay, I accept. Marcelo smiled, satisfied. Welcome to the team. We're going to change many lives together. As Mariana walked back home that night, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Maybe that was the beginning of something bigger than she could ever imagine. The next morning, Mariana got ready for her first day at her new job. She put on her best outfit, a well-ironed white shirt, and the black pants Clara had lent her. While she was fixing her unruly hair in front of the mirror, João Pedro appeared at the door holding one of his drawings. You're going to be amazing, Mom, he said with an encouraging smile. Mariana took a deep breath and kissed her son on the forehead. Thank you, my love. This is for you. Arriving at the foundation, she was greeted by Marcelo, who introduced her to the team. The environment was very different from everything Mariana was used to. The large, bright rooms, the well-dressed employees, the frenetic pace of work. Everything intimidated her. Still, she kept her composure. Between introductions, she met Felipe, a friendly coordinator who soon proved to be an ally, and Camila, a woman with impeccable posture but an appraising look that made her feel small. So you're the new coordinator of the community project, Camila said, her tone of voice a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Yes, it's a pleasure to meet you, Mariana replied, trying to maintain her confidence. Camila just smiled slightly and moved on, but Mariana realized that it wouldn't be easy to win her over. In the following days, Mariana immersed herself in her work. The project she would lead was ambitious: to create a community program that would serve vulnerable children and elderly people. The idea was to offer art and music workshops and psychological support, providing a safe space for those who needed it most. Felipe was a constant support, helping her understand the foundation's dynamics and deal with the initial challenges. Everything will be fine, Mariana. You just have to believe in what you're doing, he said, watching her review the plans for the third time before an important meeting. However, not everyone was on her side. Camila made a point of questioning her decisions during the meetings, always with sharp comments. This plan is too ambitious, she said at one meeting. Maybe we should start with something more realistic. Mariana, still unsure, took a deep breath before answering. I understand your concerns, but I believe that small steps can generate big changes. We need to give people something to believe in. Although Camila seemed skeptical, Marcelo supported Mariana. Let's go ahead with the plan, he said, ending the discussion. With the support of Felipe and Rosa, a social worker at the foundation, Mariana began to turn the ideas into reality. They adapted a room at the local community center for the first workshops. Donated paper, paints, and musical instruments were arranged in a welcoming space. On the opening day, the children entered the room with eyes shining with curiosity. Among them was Sophia, a shy 6-year-old girl who held a pencil as if it were a treasure. Can I draw whatever I want? Sophia asked in a whisper. Of course, Sophia. This space is yours, Mariana replied with a smile. The children began to draw, play instruments, and explore their new surroundings. Mariana watched with tears in her eyes. For the first time, she felt like she was really making a difference. Meanwhile, at the senior center, Mariana met Dona Zelia, an energetic woman who became the soul of the place. We need more young people like you, girl, Dona Zelia said. Loneliness is the worst enemy here. Mariana listened to every suggestion and began implementing activities that would bring the generations together, such as group storytelling sessions and painting workshops. Despite the progress, Mariana continued to face internal resistance. Camila, who seemed to harbor a hidden resentment, was especially harsh. You've never worked on anything like this before. Don't you think you're taking too much of a risk? she said in another meeting. This time, Mariana answered firmly, "Maybe. But I won't let the fear of taking risks stop us from making a difference." Camila looked away, but Felipe smiled at Mariana, signaling his support. Weeks later, Mariana received a message from Rosa. "You need to see this." At the community center, Sofia was playing the guitar for the first time. Her little fingers glided across the strings, and the smile on her face lit up the room. Mariana felt her heart swell with pride. As she was leaving, a mother held Mariana's hand. "Thank you for all this. You changed our lives." Mariana came home that night and found Juan Pedro sleeping on the couch. Beside him was a drawing, a woman with curly hair holding a large heart. Below it, he had written, "My mother is a hero." She held the drawing to her chest and, for the first time, felt that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The days became intense at the foundation. The success of the workshops and the community center brought new challenges, but it also lit a flame of enthusiasm in the team. Mariana felt that each step was an achievement, but the work was just beginning. One afternoon, Marcelo called Mariana to a special meeting. When she entered the room, she noticed that he was smiling. "Mariana, the results of your project are exceeding our expectations. I want you to present this to our donors at the next fundraising event." Mariana's heart raced. "Me? But I've never done anything like this before." "That's exactly why it will be perfect," Marcelo replied. "You have something that no one else has, the connection to these stories. Show them the real impact." Mariana knew that this would be one of the most important moments of her life. As she planned her speech, she sought inspiration from the people who had touched her journey: Sofia with her drawings, Dona Zelia and her stories, and even Juan Pedro, who had always believed in her. The event promised to be grand. It would be held in an elegant ballroom with business people, donors, and influential figures from the community in attendance. Mariana, however, faced a greater challenge than just organizing the materials. Camila, who had shown resistance before, now seemed even more hostile. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Camila asked in an acidic tone during a meeting. "Maybe we should choose someone with more experience." Mariana remained calm but answered firmly, "I don't have all the answers, but I know what we're doing here, and these stories need to be told by those who believe in them." Felipe, always by her side, smiled and added, "And Mariana is the right person for that." While working on the planning, Mariana found strength in her team. Rosa gathered testimonials from the families who benefited, while Felipe helped with the presentation. Even Marcelo made a point of reviewing the details. "Remember, Mariana, this event is not about numbers. It's about people. Speak from the heart," he said. When the night of the event arrived, Mariana felt small in front of the grandeur of the hall. The flower arrangements, the soft lights, and the guests in elegant attire created an imposing atmosphere. Even so, she took a deep breath and repeated to herself, "I can do it." During dinner, Marcelo went up on stage to open the event. He spoke about the foundation's progress and, at the end, called Mariana. "Now, I want to introduce someone who has been fundamental to all of this. Mariana Souza, please." Applause echoed through the room as Mariana walked to the stage. She held the microphone with slightly trembling hands, but when she looked at the audience, she remembered Juan Pedro and all the people who depended on this moment. "Good evening, everyone. When I accepted this job, I knew that my life would change as much as the lives of the people we helped. I want to share with you some stories that show what we are building together." On the screen behind her, images of Sofia playing the guitar and the elderly at the community center began to appear. Mariana spoke about the journey of each of them, highlighting the impact of the foundation's actions. She told how art gave confidence to children like Sofia and how activities at the center brought joy to elderly people like Dona Zelia. But what moves me the most is seeing how these small gestures grow and transform into something much bigger. That is what makes our work so important. At the end, she held the microphone more firmly and, with a choked voice, concluded, "It all started with a simple gesture, a note I wrote to someone in need, and that note changed my life as much as it changed his. Small gestures have the power to transform the world." When she finished, the room burst into applause. Some people stood up, moved. Mariana stepped off the stage with tears in her eyes, but also with a sense of achievement she had never experienced before. After the event, Marcelo came up to her with a smile. "You were amazing, Mariana. You won everyone over." Felipe appeared shortly after, holding a glass of juice. "I told you you could do it." Mariana laughed, relieved. "Thank you, but this was a job for all of us." That night, the foundation raised double the initial goal, ensuring the expansion of the programs to more communities. The donors were impressed and committed to supporting the new projects. When she returned home, Mariana found João Pedro sleeping on the couch again with another drawing next to him. This time, he had drawn his mother on a stage, surrounded by applause, with a glowing heart in her hands. Mariana took the drawing and kept it next to the note she had written to her Antonio. The next morning, Marcelo announced that the foundation would create a new training program inspired by Mariana's work. He called the project Roots of Hope. Mariana was named the program leader, cementing her role as a key player in the organization. As she left her office that afternoon, Mariana looked up at the sky and smiled. Her simple gesture had planted a seed that would continue to grow, touching lives in ways she could never have imagined. The morning after the event, the foundation's office was busier than ever. Staff were still celebrating the fundraising success, while Mariana reviewed a stack of new reports. Her phone was ringing off the hook with messages of thanks from donors and families who had benefited. In the midst of the turmoil, Marcelo walked into her office with a smile on his face. "Mariana, we need to talk." She looked at him quizzically. "Of course, Marcelo. Is something wrong?" On the contrary, he placed a folder on her desk. "I want you to lead our next place of hope." She paused, moved, and pointed to Sofia and Dona Zelia, who were in the front row. "These are the people who inspire us to keep going. Each one of you is part of this story." Applause echoed through the hall, and Mariana felt a wave of pride and gratitude. As she stepped off the stage, she met Mr. Antonio, who approached her with a small gift, an envelope with a note inside. "For you, girl, a reminder of what started it all." Mariana opened the envelope and found a replica of the note she had written to him months ago. "Be strong. We all face battles, but we are not alone. Never lose hope." Mariana's eyes filled with tears as she hugged the elderly man. "Thank you, Mr. Antonio. This means a lot to me." With the success of the new center, Mariana became a symbol of transformation both inside and outside the foundation. Her work was recognized by other community leaders and even by the local media, which ran a story highlighting her journey. But for Mariana, the true legacy lay in the small achievements: Sofia's smile, Dona Zelia's dance, and the security of knowing that João Pedro was proud of her. One night, when Mariana arrived home, she found João Pedro with yet another drawing. It was a large, colorful house full of smiling people. "This is the new center, Mom, and you are its hero." Mariana looked at the drawing and then at the note that was now framed on the wall. It had all started with a simple gesture, but she knew that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. And while the world around her continued to challenge her strength, Mariana knew she was ready. After all, she had learned that hope is the root of all change. The new community center quickly became a landmark for the community. Children, young people, and the elderly filled the space every day, transforming the place into a true home for those who needed it most. Mariana watched the movement with a smile on her face, feeling deeply grateful for everything that had happened since the beginning of her journey. But she knew there was more to be done. A few weeks after the inauguration, Mariana was invited to a special ceremony organized by the city government. The event would honor people who had made a difference in the community, and she would be one of the award recipients. On the night of the ceremony, Mariana arrived accompanied by João Pedro, who was wearing a crisp white shirt and proudly holding his mother's hand. When her name was announced, she walked up to the stage to a round of applause. The mayor gave her a plaque of recognition, but it was Mariana's speech that touched everyone. "This award is not just mine. It belongs to all those who believed that small by happy people and a big heart in the center." Below it, he wrote, "My mother is the best hero in the world." Mariana felt tears well up as she hugged her son. "Thank you, my love. You are my greatest inspiration." That night, Mariana hung João Pedro's drawing on the wall next to the note she had written to her Antonio. Each one represented an important chapter in her journey. As she looked at the two pieces, she felt a wave of peace. Mariana knew that her mission was far from over. New challenges would arise, but she was ready to face them because she understood that small actions could generate big changes. And above all, she believed that the impact of a simple gesture never stops growing. A few months after the big party at the community center, the foundation was stronger than ever. Mariana continued to lead the projects with the same passion that had brought her there, but she felt that something bigger was about to happen. Marcelo, who had always believed in her potential, called a special meeting. In the conference room, Mariana met Marcelo and other leaders of the foundation. He began in a serious tone. "We are planning to expand our operations to other cities, and we want you to lead this initiative." Mariana was momentarily shocked. The responsibility seemed immense, but she also felt the weight of a unique opportunity. "Are you sure I'm the right person for this?" she asked, trying to contain her nervousness. Marcelo smiled. "Mariana, your trajectory has proven that you are much more than capable. You are not just leading projects, you are changing lives." After a moment of reflection, Mariana nodded. "If you believe in me, I accept." The new challenge led Mariana to travel to other communities, meeting people with different stories, but all united by a common need: hope. She spent weeks listening to local leaders, visiting abandoned centers, and mapping the areas that needed the most help. On one of these visits, she met Anna, a young single mother who took care of 3 children and worked 2 jobs to support her family. Despite the difficulties, Anna was determined and full of ideas to improve the community where she lived. "We don't have many resources, but we have the will," Anna said. "We just need someone to guide us." Mariana saw in her a reflection of herself and decided that Anna would be the first person to be trained as a local leader. Meanwhile, Sofia, now more confident and experienced, began helping Mariana with projects closer to home. "It's amazing to see how these people have hope, even with so little," Sofia said on one of the trips. "And it's our job to help them turn that hope into action," Mariana replied. As expected, not everything was easy. Some community leaders resisted the idea of change, while others questioned Mariana's ability because she wasn't a local. But, as always, she faced criticism with resilience. "I'm not here to tell you what to do, I'm here to listen and work with you," she said at each meeting. Little by little, her authenticity and dedication began to win hearts and minds. More community leaders joined the initiative, and the foundations for the new centers began to be laid. While organizing documents for the expansion, Mariana found the original note she had written to her Antonio tucked away in an office drawer. She read the words one more time. "Be strong. We all face battles, but we are not alone. Never lose hope." Holding the note, she felt a moment of clarity. What had started as a small gesture was continuing to grow, reaching places she never imagined. Inspired, she decided to use the message as her motto for expansion. Each new community center would have this phrase engraved at the entrance as a reminder to all who passed by. After months of hard work, the first center in the new phase opened in a neighboring city. The event brought together looked at the drawing, then at the framed note on the wall. The message she had written in a moment of despair was now a driving force, a constant reminder that small gestures have the power to change the world. And so Mariana continued her journey, planting seeds of hope wherever she went, knowing that the impact of her work would echo for generations.